So the general process goes like this. You create your thing, you have a prototype, and then you look for somebody that can make it for you because you probably don't have all the sewing machines, the printing machines, the injection molders, and all that stuff. It just makes sense. It doesn't make sense for us to tool up and do it all of ourselves when we can just rent a little bit of time on someone's line to make a few thousand units. Most people start with China. And there's nothing wrong with that. China's been tooling up for the last, 60 years. We've been building manufacturing equipment for China with China together as partners. Because they have access to such affordable labor, they were able to provide goods for us at a much cheaper rate. We would design here in the States and they would make it where they had cheaper labor. That's not the case anymore. Labor isn't as cheap as it used to be in China. They are now a first world country and prices are going up. You add in all the discussions with tariffs and things start to change. Don't worry, we will cover this and I will give you some options. I want to set the scene first. So most people will take their invention, they'll find a manufacturer in China, they'll ask them to make it for them, they'll go back and forth on some prototypes. And when everything is all said and done and signed off on, you'll place a purchase order and you're going to give them a deposit. Once everything's ready, you'll give them the rest of the money and then they'll put it on a boat and ship it over to you. Okay, that's the high level of the process. But what should you look for when starting? If you're new, if you've never done this before, what are some red flags? And how do you even know that the supplier you're talking to is a good person to talk to? Where do we start? Where do we go first? Okay, so first we need to decide on what it is that we're actually manufacturing, because certain countries are better at certain things. China, you can get just about anything made there. But there are also some other options. You don't have to go to China. For example, you can go to India, especially for cloth and yarn and textiles. They're metal objects, car parts. They can be great. There's also Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan, and Mexico. These are the 5 big other options that you have. So depending on what you want to make, you need to figure out which country has the factories that specialize in these items. How do we figure that out? Go to the fucking store. Go to the store, look at the products on the shelves, figure out where they're shipped from, who owns what company, where they're located, and start doing some digging. That I found is a great place to start. So when we first started making scorch markers, I ordered empty markers with labels on them from China. And then I filled them up myself with my own crew in my garage. But once it got beyond that, I didn't want to give my formula to the Chinese. I didn't want them to know what was in it. I knew I wanted to do it here in the United States. So I went to Home Depot and I started looking at all the paint and stain markers. Well, I found a Minwax marker, and on the back, I found the address of where it came from. And so I started doing research and digging, and that's how I found the initial manufacturer of these paint markers. And then I did some more digging and I found a contact there and I started talking with them and eventually was able to get myself in. It's crazy, right? Just go to the store, look for the stuff, start doing research. Now, you can also use a tool called Import Yeti. Import Yeti will give you information on who is shipping what and from where. Anything that comes through customs, you can see where it originated and where it's going. So if you know the address of the company that purchased the stuff and is distributing it, you can backtrace it to the actual economic opportunity zone, the province, and sometimes even the address of the factory. And that will help you decide which country might be best for your manufacturing. Now, if that's not applicable to you, you can start with Alibaba and go on, their website and start sorting by country and looking at different manufacturers. You can also reverse image search. So if you're looking for a particular kind of paintbrush, you can take a photo of that brush, load it up into Alibaba, reverse image search it, and then you can find the manufacturer that will make that product for you. And if they can make something similar, they can probably make your thing. So if you're coming out with a new paintbrush, look for other paintbrush manufacturers. There's a good chance that their technology can be adapted to make your thing. If you're making, a different type of hat, you found a supplier in Mexico that makes this similar type of hat, there's a good chance that they can do your thing. Find someone that makes something similar for you and ask them to make an adaptation. That's what I found to be the best way to find the right manufacturer for you. Now, let's say that you do want to go to China and there's plenty of factories there to use. When you're going through the list, how do you know that they're legit? There's a couple things that I look for right off the bat. They need to have been in business for more than 5 years. They need to be verified on Alibaba. They need to have an address and pictures of their factory and a way for me to Google Street Maps it to look at it and make sure that they're legit. They need to be willing to do trade assurance or Alibaba's trade assurance or payment methods, because only legit companies are willing to jump through the hoops to be able to do official payments through Alibaba. Costs a little bit more, but your stuff's way more insured. And they need to have good communication. Now, that stuff will get you far, but it won't get you all the way. there's still a chance that you're working with a middleman or a sub factory within a factory. You just never know. So if you really want to make sure that it's legit and you need boots on the ground there, you can either travel there yourself and get it all done, which I actually recommend. It's very valuable. Or you can hire someone on Upwork or Fiverr to go to the actual factory for you, negotiate on your behalf, and then inspect the shipments before they're shipped out. They can be anywhere from $20 an hour up to a percentage of the goods that you're shipping. So that's what I look for when I'm on Alibaba. But I don't only use Alibaba to look for manufacturers. There's a website called 1688.com. This is the Chinese version of Alibaba. This is how they work amongst themselves. So if you're going to look on Alibaba, I would also recommend looking at 1688. Now, WeChat is the primary chat communication platform that everybody uses in China, but you can't use it as an American unless you get invited by someone who's a Chinese citizen. So it's kind of off the table for us. In our case, we use WhatsApp and email. You can use Alibaba's chat for sure, no problem, but bringing the conversation into WhatsApp might be a better way to share images and communicate more directly. So I recommend having a great relationship and building that rapport with the manufacturer themselves on WhatsApp or through the chat platform. But what if you can't find that supplier on Alibaba? What if you can't find the South Korean manufacturer that you're looking for? Boots on the ground, Google work, man. Sometimes you just need to go to Google and start digging. A lot of my colleagues have had to talk to hundreds of different suppliers until they found the one that was willing to work with them. Chocolate manufacturer, for example. Not easy. You see, different things are made in different countries. Very rarely will we ever import food or consumer packaged goods from overseas. All CPG products are made here in the US. Beauty products, however, they can get made overseas. Still, a majority of those are made here. Plastic widgets and other things, that's all overseas. For example, my hot air guns, there aren't any US manufacturers. I don't have the option of getting it made here. But there are manufacturers in China. Markers and injection molding, yeah, that's done here. So I could find a manufacturer here. And I bring this up because I think it's important to look at the US first. And let me explain. There's a couple reasons why manufacturing, getting your stuff made in the US is better. It might cost you a little bit more, but it's way faster, communication is better, and the quality is oftentimes much higher. When you order something from China and it gets manufactured and you go back and forth and you finally figure everything out and do the bank transfers and they put it on a boat and they ship it over here, it's going to be like 6 months. But if you're working with a supplier in the United States, it could be 60 days for them to get everything done. The freight's going to be cheaper and faster. There's no customs and tariffs and import duties to pay. There's no taxes, and it's way easier. Plus, all that money is staying here in the United States, and you're not sending it to a foreign country for their economy. You're keeping it here. So for those reasons, we'd make everything in the United States except for the heat gun. It's the only thing we order from overseas. You know, sometimes we'll get some brushes or some little plastic funnels and little things like that, but we make everything here. It's so we can have lower MOQs, faster lead times, better communication. I can visit the supplier, I can build relationships, and I can make it all work a lot easier. That's easier for me culturally to deal with Americans than it is for me to deal with Chinese or people from India or South Koreans or even people from Taiwan, because I don't know the culture as well as I know our culture, and I know that I can deal with Americans because I understand it. So there is some value there in American industry. I just want to encourage you to look at it. Which brings me to my next point, tariffs and import duties. Right now, the tariffs on our hot air guns have jumped from 25% up to 140%. So normally on a $10,000 shipment, I'd have to pay, $1,250 to get it released to me. Okay, cost of doing business. But now it's about 140%. That $10,000 shipment is now going to be $24,000. There goes my profit. Yikes. Tariffs and import duties don't exist on American-made products. So if you're sewing something or getting a t-shirt made or getting something designed or a new blanket, I would encourage you to check with the United States first for those specific reasons. Now, let's say that you're reaching out to suppliers and nobody knows what to do or they can't help you, right? You keep getting told no. Here's one of my favorite questions to ask that might open up more doors. Man, totally get it. You're absolutely right. Do you know anybody that might be able to help me though? Who would you talk to if you were me? Oftentimes you'll get a lead. They'll say, go talk to Mike over at this company. Or you should try this website. Or go talk to this person. Or, I just don't know. But I have found that question will open up doors. Because here's the thing. When you're working with suppliers, especially when you're a new business, you have to understand something. These suppliers have been in business a really long time. They're like a general contractor who specializes in doing high-end kitchens, right? That's all they do. They do high-end kitchens. They do big orders. They do big, nice kitchens. These are $100,000 kitchens, right? They don't mess around. They don't waste their time on the small deals. And here you are knocking on their door like, excuse me, sir, can you please put in a sink for me? Like, I would love for you to put in a sink. We're just getting started. Why would they waste your time with you? It better be a goddamn 24 karat gold sink for it to make sense for them. And for a lot of manufacturers, it's not. It doesn't make sense to work with smaller people like us. So that's our job as the founder. Our job as the owner and the creator of this brand to really sell ourselves and show them the potential that working with you could lead to. Show them something really cool. Dazzle them. Kill them with kindness. Be a rad human. Because those kinds of relationships are very hard to get. And if you get them, they can give you a competitive advantage and they will literally allow you to build a business. But if you don't have the supplier and the person to make the stuff, no stuff gets made. Now, a lot of people will say, well, why don't I just, manufacture it myself? Like, you make stuff in your garage, Evan. Like, why can't I? You can. You can absolutely do that. But it doesn't make sense until you have product market fit because of the upfront investment. Buying the equipment, learning it, spending the time to dial it in and get it right, it's not worth it if the product hasn't been proven. Now, Maker's Magic is a great example. It's a craft glue and a sealer, right? It's a Mod Podge competitor, a better version of it. All I had to do was mix the chemicals together in the correct proportions, fill up the jars, seal them, cap them, and ship them off. So I was able to set up a manufacturing line, for about $600. To me, that was a reasonable expense because we didn't have to injection mold and do anything crazy. But for something complicated, like manufacturing my own markers and pressing all these things together and having automated a filling line would have cost me $150,000. Not worth it. So I went to a co-packer. Making things on your own can prove the concept and help you get product market fit. But eventually, you're going to want to work with a co-packer. So the next logical step after having created a prototype and getting some sales is working with somebody who can make your product for you. This is called a co-packer or a co-manufacturer. Someone that already has the equipment set up that can just simply swap out the labels and the jars and the liquids and make your stuff for you. Now, eventually you'll get big enough to where it makes sense to bring all of that stuff in-house, but not until, 10, 20, 30 million a year, because it costs so much money to get all of that manufacturing equipment set up. And unless you're running that manufacturing equipment every single day, it's not financially worth it. You have to be able to take advantage of the time and the usage of the equipment. So there's kind of these stages that you need to go through that can't be skipped in a sense. Otherwise, you compromise the fundamentals of your business. So what are the takeaways from this? The takeaways are that you need a prototype. You need something to hold in your hands that you can touch and feel and share with a manufacturer and ask them if they can make it. Now, sometimes you'll want to get CAD designs done, computer-aided design. That's when you design the model in 3D software. When you have a prototype and a CAD file, you have everything you need to go talk to a manufacturer to see if they can make your stuff. Okay, that's a really important step. So make it out of foam or wood or cardboard or paper or cloth or whatever you can do. Just get something in your hands and then get a CAD file made. And then go to the designer and be like, hey, I need you to make this for me. And then ask, can you do it? Or do you know anyone that can? That's where I'd start. And then I would get a few samples made, right? I would have them ship them to me via DHL. So it's fast. It costs like $50. And I would go back and forth until it's perfect. Do not compromise. Don't let them tell you something's not possible. Just figure out how. Working with suppliers in China, I found they're not real problem solvers like us. They won't think outside the box to achieve something that you wouldn't have normally thought of. You have to ask and tell and be vigilant about it. And once you're happy, you can order the MOQ or the minimum order quantity. Different suppliers have different MOQs. I suggest ordering no more than 250 units in the beginning. Get those units, make a bunch of content, launch it, figure out product market fit, read the 1 and 2 star reviews, make the product better, work with the manufacturer to make those improvements and fix it, then order another 250, max 500. Keep doing that until you're getting great reviews all the time. Then you can use the content that you've made to put ad dollars behind and start scaling up the business by getting more attention and selling more product. It takes time. This takes years. But if you do it on a shaky foundation with a shitty manufacturer and you haven't vetted everything out and you haven't picked the right person, everything can collapse on you as you start to grow. So in the beginning, it's a great period of time to vet all these relationships and test out all these theories and ideas and really refine your product and make it better. One of the biggest mistakes that I made was ordering too much product. I ordered so much product. and like 10,000 units. And, then I find these mistakes and I'm like, I can't fix the mistake until I sell through these products. And now I'm going to sell a product that I'm not, 100% invested in, that I believe I know is subpar, and it's even harder. And like, just, it's better to sell out than it is to have too much inventory, because when you sell out, you can leverage it. Hey, this sold out 2 weeks ago. Sold out instantly. Get on the list. We'll let you know as soon as it's live. It's social clout. Like, it gives you a leg to stand on with some demand. You know what I mean? But if you have way too much supply and not enough demand, it's hard to sell. But if you've got a lot of demand and not enough supply, that's something that you can leverage for your benefit. So don't be hesitant to order too little. I stick with the MOQs until we're ready to start scaling up. So these are just things that I've picked up on and learned about in the 8 or so years of working with suppliers, placing POs, selling into retail, Amazon, and on our website. I've learned a lot of painful and valuable lessons. Should I still have dead inventory sitting on the shelves, and it's just consume the cash flow of my business? The last thing that you want is a bunch of dead inventory or defective products. So take your time in the beginning to make it right. Find the right manufacturer. Make sure you vibe with them. Make sure that they can answer all your questions and they are actually legit. Because there's a lot of people out there that want to capitalize on people like us that are starting businesses, and they will take advantage of people. But now that you know what I know about finding manufacturers, vetting them, sourcing them, how to look out for the right ones, what countries to go to, what to be aware of versus outside of the country and inside the US, some of the mistakes that I've made, I think you're going to be better off. So we're going to do two things really quick. Now, before I share our numbers with you, our sales figures over the last month on Shopify, Amazon, and retail, I want to tell you that I've created a community for people just like us. I host everything in Circle. Everything I know, I've taken out of my brain and put it into courses around content, business, e-commerce, legal stuff, S-Corps, all of it. We've got a great place for our members to talk, and we meet every Thursday on Zoom. There's a group of us, and we just get together and we figure shit out, because building a business is not something you should be doing alone. It's really, really hard. And if you have other people that are in your corner and understand what you're going through, it's only going to be that much easier, because we can learn from you and you can learn from us. You can find out more about my accelerator program at Vanader.com, and you can even just try it out for $1. Just come check us out, meet the group, talk to me. Maybe it's the group that you're looking for. Maybe it's not. No pressure.
Let's talk about how much money we actually made on Shopify, Amazon, and direct to retail over a 1-month period from February 3rd to February 24th. On Shopify, we did a total of $6,564.27 at a 1.14% conversion rate. On Amazon, our total sales were $26,708.34 at an 11.66% conversion rate. Through retail, we actually got paid $34,889.69, bringing our grand total for the month to $68,162.30. Now remember, we're entering our slow season coming off Q4, so I expect the numbers to dip in the summertime and go back up in Q4, which is our busy time. I hope this helps you get a sense of the type of business we're operating so you can compare your numbers to ours and learn something new. I'll see you in the next one.